The revolution's begun. The time to stand up has come. We are the rocking of the throne. We are the rocking of the throne.
Hello, my name is Victor Tiffany. I'm the co-founder of Revolt Against Plutocracy, and I'm very excited today to have the very first candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives in the entire nation to sign the contract for American renewal with us today to talk about that contract. Jason, I should have asked you before we went live on the air. Pronounce your last name. Introduce yourself, everyone, would you please?
My name is Jason Kishineff. It's pronounced just like it's spelled, although it's scary when you look at it.
It's very scary. Appreciate you joining me today.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, Victor.
You were the first candidate to sign this contract. I looked on the record today. I believe it was August 10th. And this is for people who aren't plugged into this effort yet, or maybe they've signed up to be an activist and they just don't really know how to begin. How did you find out about this contract for American renewal?
I believe I saw one of your posts, Victor, and today was the first I learned about being the first signee. I don't know. I just saw a post and I read through it and I said, well, hell, I'll sign that.
Okay.
Let's see if my opponent will.
So you stumbled into it online, or on Facebook probably somewhere, which is how we spread the word on Bernie or Bust. That was a social media movement building exercise, and that's how we did it at the time. So now you said it was pretty easy to sign. Explain why you signed it exactly.
I signed it because I looked through the contract and I believe everything on there is something that is important to me and important to the country. And I think that we need to pressure the people that are in office and the people that are running for office to push for an agenda that the people support, that we are interested in.
Which, of course, is where the 11 policy positions came from, public polling. This is more than a progressive or ideological agenda. This is a populist agenda. This is, as you said, what the people really want. And as this grows in popularity, we just got another Democrat farm there in Minnesota. I think the name of the party, the DFL, Democrat Farm League or something like that. That's what the Democrats call themselves. We just got another candidate today to sign. So we're up to 7 Democrats, 3 Greens, and 2 independents to sign the contract for American renewal. Tell us how you expect to use this in your campaign, during the debates, assuming that the media will even let you participate in the debates in California. How do you expect to use this contract that you've signed going forward?
To be honest, I'm not sure how I can use this as a candidate. If I'm allowed to participate in a debate, then I can certainly bring this to the media and say, or to the people and say, I signed this contract and it says da 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 da. My opponent is not willing to sign it, or maybe he will. I don't know. As a voter, I think that's where it's really important, where I can look for somebody, say, that's running for Senate, and I can take one look at this and tell you Dianne Feinstein isn't going to sign this, but I know somebody who's running against her that probably will, if he hasn't already. I think
he has actually. He did. There's a couple people running against Feinstein. I wish I could remember the name. I wasn't expecting to have to pull it up. There's a Justice Democrat, a woman. She won't sign it, and we're not pressing her to sign it at this point. If she finds it and she signs it, that's fine. We're not against multiple candidates in the same race signing the contract. But once we have one, once we've reached out and found somebody within a given race, we're not recruiting any further. One is enough. And yes. Of course, we hope more sign. But the point is, for some reason, we think the Justice Democrats have been given the word. Don't sign the contract for American Renewal. But who is that candidate running for against Feinstein in California you're thinking of?
David Hildenberg.
Hildenberg signed it this week.
Sir.
And this coming week, we are going to be sending out an email blast to all the people who took the Burn Your Bus pledge last year and the year before in California. Right, so this is a slow process. I can't send it out in a blast because we don't have it broken down by state in our bulk emailer program. So from AOL, 100, 200 email addresses at a time, I'll be sending out a blast this coming week, encouraging people across the state to join his campaign, and I will be including you in that same email for people in your congressional district to sign up, or at least go to your website. And by the way, what is your website?
Right on, thank you. My website is www.kishineff.org. Want me to spell that?
Okay, so we'll be directing people in your district and really across the state to your website, and hopefully you can get some supporters, because obviously it takes a strong ground game. And the other thing we're doing with this, which a lot of candidates don't appreciate yet because we don't really spell this out on our website, in addition to building support here in the early stages for what we're trying to do, we're also trying to what we're going to do is create a situation where you're going to have a ground game, right? You're going to have volunteers, and they're going to be phone banking. And if you raise some money, you're going to run ads on television and radio and whatnot. You're going to have your campaign ground game. And what we want to do is supplement CFAR candidates' ground game with an email strategy, or tactic, I guess would be the right word, by getting these people who took the Burn Your Bus pledge to send out an email to all the people they know in California. This would be for the Hildebrand, or in your congressional district, in your case, all the people they know locally who plan on voting in the primaries to support you. So each person, every human being who's online with an email account is a network. All they have to do is build a network, so what they can do is harvest their email addresses from their email account. So they're sitting there waiting to be used, right? They're just a list of email addresses. And then we're going to come along with an email blast to them, encouraging support for you. And then they will forward that to all the people on their email account in their local. So ideally, people have three lists of email addresses. The first one is local for congressional districts, statewide for Senate races, and national for the presidential race. So we're hoping to get people to build networks, and then we're going to send them an email, which you can actually help construct. Even though we're a super PAC, we're not going to be spending money on your behalf in any likelihood. And even if we do, it probably won't be on television and radio advertising. As long as we avoid that, we can coordinate with you. We can actually, it's a loophole in the FEC rules. As long as we do not run broadcast, satellite, cable ads on your behalf, we can coordinate. So we can actually coordinate the email campaign. You can write the letter to support yourself when it comes time, and then we'll forward that to the people in your congressional district. And that's another thing we're going to do, is build up a database of people who want to support CFAR candidates in the coming year. When is the California primary?
It is June 6th, June 5th or 6th.
June 5th and 6th. So we have just about
5th or 6th.
8 months, just under 8 months, to build a list of voters who want to support CFAR candidates. And we'll teach them how to harvest their email addresses to create a network, their own little email network, and then we'll forward an email for them to forward to their network. So what we're aiming to do is build networks of networks to support CFAR candidates. This isn't just this, hey, become a CFAR candidate and everything will be fine. No. It's become a CFAR candidate, and we're going to support you right as far as you can go in this race. So that's our
I
strategy.
appreciate that.
And I'm spelling it out here because we haven't really made that clear. And since you're the first CFAR candidate I've had the privilege to interview or talk to, I wanted to spell out exactly how it is we're going to be helping you.
Thank you. Appreciate
So,
all the support I can get.
and what candidate can't? What on those 11 issues, are there any that you're going to be stressing to voters that you support, the abolition or the overturning of Citizens United, or the infrastructure plank? Which of those do you think you're going to be stressing more than others?
Overturning Citizens United is key. Election reform is key. We, the people, have all kinds of demands. The list is much longer than these 11 things here. And for any of our progressive change, we will need to reform the election system, and so that our voice can be heard more than the corporations right now. So that's the key thing is Citizens United and election reform.
I agree, and that's actually my background. Before we organized Bernie or Bust, I was in Move to Amend, working here in New York State to get the state legislature to tell Congress to pass an amendment to overturn Citizens United. So yeah, that's a real big one for me as well. Some of those planks are going to be very expensive. So let me ask you the question you're going to be asked by your opponents. Jason, how do you expect to pay for these things? You're a tax and spend liberal, aren't you?
Right off the bat, I think that we need to increase the tax rate on the upper 1%. We need to enforce the corporate rate. We need to close tax loopholes. And I believe this contract says that the military budget can be cut by 20%. I believe it can be cut by a lot more than that without scaring anyone. I know North Korea is all scary right now, but we spend a lot of money on the military on bases we don't need. We didn't even know we were in Niger. We are paying military contractors that are basically mercenaries. I mean, we could cut a lot of fat out of the military budget, and that would pay for a lot of this stuff, if not all of it.
I'm going to send you a video of my interview with Steve Grumbine. He's with Real Progressives, and we're actually in negotiations with them and discussions to combine forces, because they have, between Contract for American Renewal and their focus, which is modern monetary theory, we have a one-two punch for going into these midterm elections and doing so quite effectively. So I'll forward you that email, Jason, because what we hope the answer is going to become by the time you actually get asked that question is Congress just has to pass the bill. Congress will coin the money. When Congress passes a bill and says, here it is, we're going to spend this money, that's it. You don't have to raise taxes for anything. Because as soon as you talk about raising taxes, it sort of sets alarms off in people's bills. And the fact of the matter is, according to the modern monetary lens, they call it a theory, we call it a reality, you don't have to raise taxes because taxes does not fund spending. That's just
true. It's hard to switch the mind to think that way. We just have to print the money.
It is hard to switch that way because our mindset comes from the gold standard when, in fact, you did have to raise taxes to spend. You had to fund the government, and that's no longer necessary. Money is fiat currency anymore. It's just, the government spends it, and it's there. It's in circulation. And the main thing is to keep inflation low, and you don't put too much money in circulation. And, of course, we can do that with taxes, right? If you take money out of circulation, that will tamp down inflation. But that's really, in our view, the only purpose to raise taxes is to cut down on demand, effective demand, and therefore keep inflation rate at a reasonable level. When it comes to the Contract for American Renewal, I don't know if you have it on your website yet, but another possibility for you to do is you might need a programmer to help you figure out how to do this. But you can put this on your website with your signature, handwritten signature, and ask supporters of the contract to co-sign it, right? So it's a contract between you and voters. And if you do it right, you can actually ask for contact information from them. And that's another way you can use the contract to build your support. Do you know who did that?
Who did that?
He won his election. He had his first 100-day agenda as a contract with voters on his website, and he had people sign it and leave contact information. And he won the election. Who was that?
Who? Newt Gingrich.
Donald Trump.
Oh, Donald Trump.
Donald Trump had a contract with voters. And of course, this idea goes back to 1994 when the Republicans had the contract with America, which they used to take the House of Representatives for the first time in decades. The fact of the matter is, these contracts work. They can raise your profile. You can actually, if I were you, if you don't mind a little advice, I would send a press release out that now you're the first candidate in the country for Congress to have signed the contract for American Renewal. Send out a press release. Let people know that about this, and that they can sign it. Go ahead and get it set up on your website that they can sign it as voters, and then it's a contract between candidate and voters, and you can use this to generate support. It's just one idea that kind of throwing around here.
I'm not sure I have the technical expertise myself to do that, but yeah, if I got somebody to help me put something like that together, that'd be great. The only thing I know to do is to set it up as like one of the online petitions, and that people got really irritated with those.
Yeah, well, and petitions aren't particularly effective, I don't think. This has the promise of being more effective that way. And yes. I'm not a tech guru, but we've hired one, and I can reference him to you because he's currently unemployed and could use the money. He just got into our Bluehost, which was holding our account where you went and found the contract, and we were taken offline by Bluehost because we were hacked and infected by malware. He got in there, cleared that out. Now he's moved it over to Cloudflare, so we're now on a cloud and secured with a firewall. And he did this at a very reasonable price. So when we're done with this, I can refer you to him, and maybe you can get him to help you set that up with your website. At any rate,
that'd be great.
Just maybe brainstorm for a few more of our remaining minutes here before we wrap this up. How else might you use the contract for American Renewal to get publicity, to stand out over the crowd? I mean, it's hard as a Green Party candidate. And this is a way that you can distinguish yourself. First of all, it's transpartisan. Like I said, we have 7 Democrats, 2 independents, and 3 Greens. So how else do you think you can use the contract to stand out from the crowd?
Well, I think it's all up to media attention, which is hard to get as a Green. But I could definitely, if I could get myself on camera, hey, I signed this contract, and it's, I'm for reforming tax regulations and expanding Social Security. I'm for all those things. Is my opponent? I don't know. He's going to talk about balanced budget, and I won't vote for any tax that's not paid for. And we can't fix our roads without toll bridges, without making them toll roads, and
Right. Neoliberalism.
Bull.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're up against a progressive, right? If it's a progressive, like say a Justice Democrat, who refuses to sign a contract and make an absolute commitment, as you have, to voters to go to Congress and get this done, or else, you may find yourself in front of a judge being asked to step down because you violated the contract. You're making a binding commitment. You have made a binding commitment to voters. And if a Justice Democrat, who may have the same platform as you, refuses to sign the contract, you clobber him or her by pointing out that they won't even make a commitment to voters to sign, by signing this contract. They won't even make a commitment to do this. And therefore, how can voters trust them if they can't make a commitment to them to do what they say they're going to do? You've done that. And the other question I wanted to ask you is, you have to do this in 180 days, which isn't, in my view, very difficult, although you will be a freshman, you would be a freshman congressman, and you'll be learning the ropes. It won't be hard to fulfill the Citizens United step, because all you have to do is co-sponsor one of the amendments out there, and there's plenty of them. And you might have to introduce, say, on the trade plank, which is to pull out of NAFTA and CAFTA, you may have to introduce a resolution to the president asking him to do that, because that's, Congress can't take that step, but he could. And in my view, it's probably the only.
As if anybody can get the president to do anything.
Well, it's probably, of those 11 planks, it's probably the only thing he would actually respond to, if you could manage to get Congress to pass such a resolution, which is always hard, of course, but it's the one thing he might actually respond to, because he did run as an anti-NAFTA, an anti sort of corporate free trade candidate. Whether he's still that or not, we don't know.
He also said he wasn't going to touch Social Security. I think we're all learning that Trump, the president, is different from Trump, the candidate.
Yeah, he's becoming more neoliberal every day. There's no question about that. And he's becoming more international. He's not as nationalistic. I mean, the cruise missile attack that caused Brian Williams to cream his jeans ran against what he said in his inaugural address. So even on the few hopeful points of genuine change that he thought he promised, he campaigned he was going to advance as president, he's fallen quite short, and he's come closer to the status quo, more of the same thing. That's probably the biggest problem I have with him. He's too close to what everyone else is. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. It's only been about 20 minutes, but I want to give you an opportunity to, again, maybe repeat the address of your website. Tell California voters in your district why, aside from the Contract for American Renewal, I mean, I think we've made a pretty good case for why a CFAR candidate is superior to any other candidate in any other party. But why else do you think you should be elected over the dollar-drenched Democrats?
Well, it's all about the corporate money. I am a candidate that wants to listen to the voters, that wants to represent the people, and my opponent, who is running for his 10th term, by the way, I've agreed to sign on to term limits as well. My opponent, it takes a ton of corporate money, is voting for things like prohibiting permits before dumping poisons in our waterways, and he's Trump just okayed, or is gonna okay, African elephant trophies. My opponent voted for similar things several times, including polar bear trophies and lead bullets. It's all about the corporate money. I'm also very into police reform bill. I want to reform the police, make it so that their courtroom standing is the same as everybody else's, so that if they're accused of a crime, they're not automatically assumed to be telling the truth when they say, I was scared of the guy pulling out his wallet when I told him to get his ID. That's an important one to me.
Yeah, we actually encourage, I mean, you've already signed it and nobody's picked it up yet. You have it in your hand. We actually encourage maybe deleting one of the 11 positions and adding a criminal justice plank to that platform along those lines. Maybe, as we note on our website, a special independent prosecutor in the cases of all fatal use of police violence.
I think that they get a special courtroom standing that needs to be removed. They need to be just like everyone else. Have a prosecute. Have it. I can't think of the word. Cross-examined. Questioned.
Sure. Well, I appreciate your time. I'm going to make sure I put your web address into the video here on Facebook once I get this closed up, and I'll add it when we move this over to YouTube. I appreciate your time, and good luck with your campaign.
That's www.kishineff.org. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Have a good
day.
You too.
Revolt Against Plutocracy won't just be covering the news about the necessary revolution in the United States. Sometimes we'll be making the news. If you want to stay on top of the revolutionary actions and strategies of grassroots, genuine progressives, and our allies, please subscribe to our YouTube channel today.